The great hall of Zephyria Prime buzzed with nervous energy as alien representatives from across the galaxy gathered for an emergency meeting. The massive chamber could hold thousands, but today, only the most powerful species sent their leaders. Something had happened that made even the mightiest civilizations afraid. Commander Jake Harrison's name was spoken in hushed whispers throughout the hall. The human had been doing the impossible for months now. Pirate bases that had operated freely for decades were burning. Slave traders who had never faced real opposition were fleeing their strongholds. Most shocking of all, Jake and his small fleet had destroyed 3 major criminal operations that even the Draknari Empire refused to touch. Chancellor Vextar of the Andromedan stood at the central podium, his forearms gesturing wildly as he spoke. This human madness must stop. They ignore every rule we have established. They attack without permission from the Council. They free slaves without following proper procedures. The reptilian delegate from Serpentis Prime hissed his agreement. My people remember the old warnings. Our ancestors told us to never anger the Earthborn. They said humans do not know how to surrender. A blue-skinned cetacean representative raised her voice above the murmurs. Perhaps we should listen to these old stories. My grandmother lived through the border wars. She said humans fight differently than anyone else. They do not stop when they should. In the back of the hall, the massive Draknari ambassador Korath remained silent. His people were warriors who respected strength, but even they had learned to avoid direct conflict with Earth's forces. Their humans had a way of turning every battle into something unexpected. The meeting continued for hours as reports came in from across the Outer Rim territories. Jake Harrison's fleet had struck again, this time hitting a major slavery hub on Kepler Station. The criminals had sent distress calls to every government in the sector, begging for protection from the crazy humans. Chancellor Vextar's patience finally broke. Enough. We will send a message to Earth. They will recall their ships immediately or face the consequences. The cetacean delegate tried to speak again. Chancellor, with respect, threatening humans has never worked well for anyone. Silence, Vexatar shouted. We represent 12 major civilizations. Earth has 1 small planet and a few colonies. They will listen to reason. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Admiral Lisa Carter sat in her command center on Luna Base, reading the latest reports from Jake's mission. Her friend had just rescued over 10,000 slaves from a facility that local authorities claimed did not exist. The criminals had been using advanced shielding technology to hide their operations, but human sensors had found them anyway. Lisa's communication officer approached her desk with a worried expression. Admiral, we have an incoming message from the Galactic Council. It's marked as urgent. The message appeared on Lisa's main screen, showing Chancellor Vexatar's stern face. His translated words filled the room with an ominous tone. To the leaders of Earth, you will immediately recall all human vessels operating beyond your home system. Your aggressive actions threaten galactic peace. You have 72 hours to comply, or we will consider Earth in violation of interstellar law. Lisa stared at the screen for a long moment after the message ended. Her aide waited nervously for her response. Get me a direct line to Chancellor Vexatar, Lisa said calmly. Ma'am, they might not accept the call, her aide warned. They will, Lisa replied with certainty. Within minutes, the connection was established. Chancellor Vextar appeared on screen, clearly surprised that the humans were responding so quickly. Admiral Carter, I trust you received our message, Vextar began. I did, Lisa replied. And I have a message for you and the Council. Earth protects those who cannot protect themselves. We will not be caged by fear or politics while innocent beings suffer. Vextar's face darkened. You forget your place, human. Earth is 1 small world among thousands. You cannot stand against the combined might of the galaxy. Lisa's expression remained calm but determined. Chancellor, with respect, you forget who you're talking to. Humans don't back down from bullies no matter how big they are. The conversation ended abruptly as Vextar cut the connection. Lisa knew that her words would spread quickly through the galactic government. She also knew that Earth was about to face its greatest challenge yet. Back on Zephyria Prime, the emergency session had turned into a war council. The hegemony of worlds, led by the reptilian Vorthak Chancellor Skrath, had arrived with a simple proposal. The humans must be taught their place, Skrath declared, his cold eyes scanning the assembly. My people will lead a coalition fleet to Earth. We will show the galaxy what happens when primitives challenge their betters. The Draknari ambassador Korath finally spoke up. Chancellor Siskarath, my people have fought many wars. We have learned that underestimating humans is always a mistake. Eskarath's scaled lips curved into what might have been a smile. Your people have grown soft, Korath. The Vorthak remember when strength mattered more than fear of humans. Over the next few days, messages flew between hundreds of worlds. The hegemony of worlds was calling in old debts and making new promises. They wanted the largest fleet in galactic history to teach Earth a lesson that would echo through the ages. Some species joined eagerly, seeing a chance to gain favor with the powerful Vorthak. Others joined reluctantly, afraid of what might happen if they refused. A few quietly sent warning messages to Earth, remembering old friendships or fearing what a galaxy controlled by the hegemony might look like. On Earth, Lisa Carter called an emergency meeting of all human fleet commanders. The holographic conference room filled with the faces of captains and admirals from across human space. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa began, we knew this day might come. The galaxy has decided that our mission to protect the innocent is too dangerous to continue. Captain Ryan Brooks of the newest dreadnought ESS Defiant spoke first. Admiral, how many ships are they bringing? Intelligence suggests over 10,000 vessels from dozens of species, Lisa replied calmly. The room fell silent as the enormity of the threat sank in. Humanity's entire fleet numbered less than 800 ships. Ma'am, asked Captain Nicole Price from Mars Command, what are our orders? Lisa looked at each face on the screen before answering. We do what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. We stand up, we fight back, and we show the galaxy that freedom is worth any price. As the meeting ended and preparations began, one thought echoed through every human mind. The galaxy was about to learn why their ancestors had warned against challenging the Earthborn. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, watching the stars stream past as his ship led the human fleet back toward Earth. The massive dreadnought was humanity's newest and most powerful vessel, but even Ryan knew it would not be enough against what was coming. The tactical display showed the positions of human ships across the galaxy. Jake Harrison's strike force was still operating in the outer rim, but orders had gone out for all human vessels to begin their withdrawal. To alien observers, it looked like Earth was finally showing sense and backing down from the fight. They could not have been more wrong. Captain, his communications officer called out. We're receiving updates from Admiral Carter's strategic team. Ryan read the message quickly, then allowed himself a small smile. Colonel Amy Davis and her planning division had been working around the clock for weeks. What looked like a retreat was actually the most complex military operation in human history. Set course for Checkpoint Alpha, Ryan ordered, and send word to the other ships. Phase 1 begins now. Across the Sol system, similar orders were being carried out. Human ships that had been scattered across dozens of star systems were converging on predetermined positions. But these were not random gathering points. Every location had been chosen for a specific purpose that would only become clear when the enemy arrived. On Luna Base, Colonel Amy Davis stood before a massive holographic display that showed the entire solar system. Red dots marked the positions of hidden defensive platforms that had been secretly installed over the past 30 years. Blue lines showed planned attack corridors that would channel enemy ships into carefully prepared kill zones. Status report, Amy called out to her team. Asteroid belt platforms are fully online, reported her tactical officer. Outer system mines are in position. All stealth satellites have confirmed ready status. Amy nodded with satisfaction. The aliens expected to face a desperate defense around Earth itself. Instead, they would encounter a layered defense system that extended all the way to the edge of the solar system. Every asteroid, Every piece of space debris, every seemingly empty patch of space could hide a surprise. "What about the Prometheus project?" Amy asked. Her aide checked his tablet nervously. "Dr. Walsh says they need more time. The network isn't stable yet." Amy frowned. The Prometheus Gate network was their most ambitious gamble. If it worked, ships could appear anywhere in the solar system instantly. If it failed, they would lose their most advanced technology at the worst possible moment. Meanwhile, in the underground laboratories beneath Luna's surface, Dr. Kevin Walsh was fighting a different kind of battle. The Prometheus Gates used artificial wormhole technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Creating stable portals required precise calculations and enormous amounts of energy. "Run the simulation again," Kevin told his team for the 100th time that day. "We need to be absolutely certain the network won't collapse under combat stress." The holographic display showed a complex web of energy connections, linking points throughout the solar system. Each gate could theoretically transport a full squadron of ships, but only if the power levels remained perfectly balanced. "Dr. Walsh," called his assistant, "the Admiral is asking for another status update." Kevin rubbed his tired eyes. "Tell her we need at least another week for full testing." "Sir, intelligence reports suggest the enemy fleet will arrive in 5 days." Kevin stared at the display for a long moment. "Then we test it under fire. Prepare for emergency activation protocols." Far beyond the outer planets, advanced human scouts were tracking the approaching alien armada. The enemy fleet was massive, beyond anything in recorded history. Thousands of ships from dozens of species had joined together with one goal: crush humanity's resistance once and for all. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner piloted his experimental fighter through the empty space beyond Pluto, using advanced stealth systems to observe the enemy without being detected. His ship was one of only a dozen prototypes equipped with technology that most humans had never seen. "Command, this is Ghost Leader," Alex whispered into his communicator. "I have visual confirmation on the enemy fleet. They're bigger than our worst estimates." Through his cockpit window, Alex could see the alien formation stretching across space like a deadly constellation. Massive Vorthak dreadnoughts formed the center of the fleet, surrounded by cruisers and destroyers from a dozen other species. Fighter wings moved between the larger ships like clouds of angry insects. "Copy that, Ghost Leader," came the reply from Luna Base. "Continue observation and report any changes in formation." Alex activated his ship's advanced recording systems, documenting everything he could about enemy capabilities and tactics. The aliens were moving in traditional formation, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They had no idea that human military doctrine had evolved far beyond conventional thinking. Back on Luna Base, Admiral Lisa Carter reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. The enemy fleet was even larger than expected, but that was not what worried her most. The composition of the fleet suggested that someone very smart was in charge of the operation. "The Vorthak have positioned their heavy ships to protect the command vessels," noted her intelligence officer. "They're not taking any chances with human tactics." Lisa studied the formation carefully. "They've learned from our previous encounters. They know we like to target leadership." "Ma'am, there's something else," the officer continued. "We're detecting some ship designs that don't match any known configurations. They might have developed new technology specifically for this attack." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. If the aliens had created new weapons designed to counter human advantages, the coming battle would be even more dangerous than anticipated. On Mars, Major Sam Rodriguez was overseeing the final preparations of the hidden weapon platforms scattered throughout the asteroid belt. These installations had been disguised as mining operations for decades, but each one contained enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. "Final systems check," Sam ordered his team. "When the shooting starts, we won't get a second chance." The platforms were marvels of human engineering, designed to remain completely hidden until the moment they opened fire. Each installation could operate independently, making them impossible to disable with a single strike. "Major," called his communications specialist, "we're receiving final deployment orders from Admiral Carter." Sam read the message and felt his heart rate increase. The plan was audacious even by human standards. Instead of waiting for the enemy to attack Earth, they would spring their trap in deep space far from any inhabited worlds. As the hours ticked by, human forces throughout the solar system made their final preparations. Ships moved to predetermined positions, weapon systems came online, and personnel prepared for what might be humanity's last stand. But in the depths of space, something else was happening. The Prometheus gates, despite their incomplete testing, were beginning to show signs of unexpected behavior. Energy readings fluctuated wildly as the artificial wormholes responded to the approaching threat. Dr. Kevin Walsh watched his instruments with growing amazement. "The gates are resonating with something," he told his team. "It's like they're detecting the enemy fleet." "Is that good or bad?" asked his assistant. Kevin stared at the readings, trying to understand what he was seeing. "I honestly don't know. We're in completely uncharted territory." As the alien armada drew closer to the edge of the solar system, both sides prepared for a battle that would determine the future of human expansion into the galaxy. The aliens came seeking to crush a rebellion before it could spread. The humans, prepared to show the galaxy that freedom was worth any sacrifice. Neither side fully understood what they were about to unleash. The alien armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a dark storm cloud blotting out the stars. 10,000 ships of every size and configuration spread across space in perfect formation. At the center of the fleet, Chancellor Skarath's flagship cast its shadow over dozens of smaller vessels. On the bridge of his massive command ship, Skarath gazed at the tactical display showing the human home system. After weeks of travel, the moment of victory was finally at hand. His reptilian eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he contemplated the lesson that was about to be taught. "Communications," Skarath ordered. "Open a channel to all human frequencies. It is time to offer them one final chance for surrender." The Chancellor's scaled face appeared on screens throughout the Sol system as he began his broadcast. His voice carried the authority of 12 civilizations and the threat of total destruction. "People of Earth, I am Chancellor Skarath of the Vorthak Empire, speaking for the hegemony of worlds. You have ignored the Galactic Council's warnings and continued your illegal military actions. Your ships have attacked sovereign territories without permission and freed property that belonged to legal owners. Throughout human space, military personnel and civilians alike watched the alien leader's ultimatum with grim determination. However, the hegemony is merciful," Skarath continued. "Surrender immediately, recall all your forces, and submit to galactic authority. Do this, and your world will be spared. Continue your resistance, and your species will serve as an example to any others who might challenge the established order." The transmission ended, leaving the solar system in tense silence. On Luna Base, Admiral Lisa Carter stood before her command staff, studying the enemy formation that filled their long-range sensors. "Analysis?" she asked her tactical officer. "Ma'am, they've positioned their heaviest ships to protect the command vessels. They're expecting us to try desperate attacks on their leadership. The formation is designed to absorb and contain any assault we might launch." Lisa nodded grimly. The aliens had learned from previous encounters with human forces. They were not underestimating humanity's unconventional tactics this time. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "Chancellor Skarath is requesting a response to his ultimatum." Lisa walked to the main screen and activated the transmission system. Her face appeared on the alien flagship's main display, showing no trace of fear or uncertainty. "Chancellor Skarath," Lisa began calmly, "humanity appreciates your offer. Unfortunately, we must decline. Earth does not negotiate with bullies regardless of how many ships they bring." On the alien flagship, Skarath's advisors hissed with shock at the humans' defiance. The Chancellor himself remained motionless for several seconds before responding. "Admiral Carter, you are either very brave or very foolish. Our fleet contains more firepower than your entire species has ever seen. You cannot hope to stand against us." Lisa's expression remained steady. "Chancellor, you make the same mistake that many others have made. You assume that victory depends only on numbers. Humans have a different understanding of what makes a force truly powerful." The transmission ended abruptly as Lisa cut the connection. Throughout the human fleet, captains and crews prepared for what many believed would be their final battle. On Mars' orbital station, Captain Nicole Price received her orders and felt her heart race with anticipation. She commanded the defense, platforms protecting humanity's second most important world, but her real mission was about to begin. "All stations, this is Mars Command," Nicole announced to her forces. "Execute Plan Thunderbolt. Show them what human engineering can do." What appeared to be a suicidal charge by outnumbered human ships suddenly revealed itself as something far more sophisticated. The first wave of human vessels accelerated toward the alien formation at impossible speeds, their engines burning brighter than small stars. But just as the aliens prepared to destroy the attacking ships, something unprecedented happened. The rare human vessels simply vanished, disappearing from all sensors as if they had never existed. On the alien flagship, Skarath's tactical officer stared at his displays in confusion. "Chancellor, the human ships have just disappeared." "Impossible," Skarath snarled. "No known technology can do that. Check your sensors." Before the tactical officer could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the alien fleet. Human ships were materializing inside their formation, appearing from empty space to strike at impossible angles before vanishing again. The Prometheus Gate network was working, but not the way Dr. Kevin Walsh had intended. The artificial wormholes were responding to combat stress by creating temporary portals that allowed human ships to phase in and out of normal space. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner led his squadron of experimental fighters through this chaos, his enhanced neural interface allowing him to process the rapidly changing battle conditions. His pilots had been selected for their ability to think faster than normal humans, and that advantage was proving decisive. "Ghost Squadron, follow my lead," Alex called out as his fighters materialized directly behind a massive alien cruiser. "Hit the engine sections and fade out before they can respond." The human fighters struck like lightning, their advanced weapons tearing through alien armor before the defenders could even target them. By the time the cruiser's gun batteries swung around to return fire, the attackers had already vanished into another portal. Throughout the alien fleet, similar attacks were occurring with devastating effect. Ships that had seemed untouchable moments before were suddenly vulnerable to assaults from impossible directions. The careful formation that Chancellor Skarath had planned was collapsing into chaos. "Report!" Skarath demanded as his flagship shuddered under a surprise attack from human ships that had appeared directly above them. "We're taking heavy damage from all vectors," his tactical officer replied. "The humans are using some kind of instantaneous travel technology. Our weapons cannot track them effectively." For the first time since the battle began, Skarath felt a touch of uncertainty. His forces still outnumbered the humans by more than 10 to 1, but numbers meant nothing if they could not hit their targets. In the asteroid belt, Major Sam Rodriguez watched the battle unfold on his tactical displays before giving the order that would change everything. "All platforms, this is Control. Execute Hammerfall." Hidden weapons installations throughout the asteroid belt suddenly came online, revealing themselves as they opened fire on the alien formation. What the invaders had assumed was empty space erupted with the fury of concentrated human firepower. Massive railguns that had been disguised as mining equipment sent projectiles through space at a significant fraction of light speed. Energy weapons, powered by fusion reactors, carved through alien shields like they were made of paper. Missile launchers that had been built into asteroids themselves unleashed swarms of smart munitions that hunted down their targets with relentless precision. The aliens found themselves caught between the phasing human fleet and the hidden fortress network, unable to effectively respond to either threat. Ships that tried to focus on the mobile human forces were torn apart by the fixed installations. Vessels that turned their attention to the asteroid platforms were immediately attacked by the ghostly human ships that could appear anywhere. On Luna Base, Colonel Amy Davis watched her carefully planned battle unfold with professional satisfaction. Every element was working exactly as designed, creating a multi-layered defense that turned the aliens' numerical advantage into a liability. "Admiral," she reported to Lisa Carter, "the enemy formation is beginning to break apart. They're having Trouble maintaining coordination under our attack pattern. Lisa nodded, but her expression remained serious. This is just the beginning, Amy. They still have enough ships to overwhelm us if they adapt to our tactics. As if responding to her words, the alien fleet began to change its approach. Instead of maintaining formation, the ships spread out into smaller groups that could operate independently. Some vessels began using wide-area bombardment weapons, trying to force the human ships to remain in normal space. They're learning, Lisa observed grimly. Signal all units, prepare for Phase 2. The battle for humanity's survival was far from over, but one thing had already become clear. The galaxy's first law about never challenging the Earthborn was not based on fear alone. It was based on the hard-earned knowledge that humans fought wars unlike any other species in the galaxy. As the stars themselves seemed to burn with the fury of the conflict, both sides prepared for the next stage of a battle that would determine whether freedom or tyranny would rule the galaxy. What had begun as humanity's desperate last stand was transforming into something the galaxy had never seen before. The alien forces, designed for conventional fleet battles, found themselves completely outmatched by human tactics that seemed to ignore every rule of space warfare. Chancellor Skarath stared at his tactical displays in growing horror as his carefully planned invasion turned into a nightmare. Ships that should have been able to crush any resistance were being picked apart by an enemy that refused to fight fair. His massive fleet was being destroyed by forces they could barely see, let alone hit. Tactical assessment, Skarath demanded, his voice tight with controlled rage. Sir, we've lost over 30% of our fleet, his tactical officer reported. The humans are using some kind of spatial manipulation technology that allows them to attack from multiple dimensions simultaneously. Skarath's claws dug into his command chair. That's impossible. No species has mastered dimensional warfare. With respect, Chancellor, the humans clearly have. The battle had evolved into a deadly game of cat and mouse, except the humans had somehow become both the cat and the mouse. Ships would appear from nowhere, strike with devastating precision, and vanish before the aliens could respond. The carefully maintained battle formations were falling apart as captains tried desperately to protect their vessels from attacks that could come from any direction. Captain Tony Mitchell was demonstrating exactly why humans had earned their fearsome reputation throughout the galaxy. His assault teams had successfully boarded 3 alien command ships, each one 10 times larger than his own vessel. What should have been impossible was becoming routine for the human Marines. Boarding Team Alpha, this is Mitchell, Tony spoke, into his communicator, as his soldiers moved through the corridors of yet another captured alien vessel. Status report. Sir, we've secured the engine room, came the reply from Sergeant Lisa Wang. The crew abandoned their posts when we breached the hull. They seemed to be afraid of fighting us in close quarters. Tony nodded grimly. The aliens had powerful ships and advanced technology, but they had no experience fighting an enemy that could board their vessels and capture them intact. Human Marines moved through enemy ships like ghosts, using their adaptability and unpredictability to sow chaos among crews who had never faced such unconventional warfare. What about the bridge? Tony asked. Captain Rodriguez has it secured, Lisa replied. The alien commander is asking to surrender. This was the 4th ship Tony's teams had captured in the past hour. Instead of simply destroying enemy vessels, the humans were taking them intact along with their crews and technology. It was a tactic that no alien species had ever encountered before. Meanwhile, Dr. Kevin Walsh was witnessing something that challenged everything he thought he knew about physics. The Prometheus Gate network had not only achieved full synchronization, but it was performing far beyond its original design parameters. The energy readings don't make sense, Kevin told his assistant, as they watched the battle unfold from their underground laboratory. The gates are drawing power from some unknown source. On his displays, the artificial wormhole network pulsed with energy that seemed to respond to the emotions and intentions of the human forces using it. Ships could appear anywhere in the solar system instantly, but more than that, they seemed to know exactly where they needed to be. Dr. Walsh, his assistant said nervously. Some of the pilots are reporting that the gates are responding to their thoughts. They think about where they need to go, and the portals open automatically. Kevin stared at the data streaming across his screens. That's impossible. The system requires precise coordinates and manual activation. Sir, impossible seems to be what humans do best. The truth was that the Prometheus gates had evolved beyond their original programming. The network had become something closer to a living system, one that was tied directly to human consciousness and determination. It was responding not just to tactical needs but to the deeper human drive to protect the innocent and fight for what was right. Admiral Lisa Carter made the decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. Standing before her command staff on Luna Base, she gave the order that surprised everyone, including her own officers. All units, this is Admiral Carter. Execute Operation Mercy. Ma'am? Her tactical officer asked in confusion. Are you ordering a retreat? No, Lisa replied firmly. I'm ordering a full offensive, but we're not going to destroy the alien fleet. We're going to capture it. The order sent shockwaves through the human forces, but it was quickly followed by detailed instructions that showed the true brilliance of human strategic thinking. Instead of simply winning the battle, they were going to turn their enemies into allies. Captain Ryan Brooks received his new orders aboard the ESS Defiance and felt a mixture of admiration and concern for his admiral's bold strategy. You heard the admiral, he told his crew. We're not here to destroy these ships, we're here to save them from their own leaders. The human assault shifted from destruction to precision capture operations. Using the Prometheus gates, boarding teams could appear directly inside enemy vessels, bypassing their defenses entirely. But instead of causing maximum damage, they were targeting command centers and engine rooms, seeking to disable rather than destroy. The alien crews found themselves facing an enemy that could have killed them all, but chose instead to offer them medical treatment, food, and shelter. Human medics worked alongside captured alien wounded, treating injuries without regard for species or allegiance. On one captured Vorthak cruiser, Commander Sarah Bell found herself face-to-face with the alien captain who had been trying to kill her just hours before. The reptilian officer was injured but conscious, lying in the ship's medical bay while human doctors worked to save his life. Why? The alien captain asked weakly. Why do you help us after we came to destroy you? Sarah considered the question carefully before answering. Because that's what humans do. We fight to protect people, not to destroy them, even when those people are trying to hurt us. The alien captain's eyes showed confusion that went beyond pain. This makes no tactical sense. We are your enemies. No, Sarah replied gently. You were being used by people who wanted to hurt innocent beings. That makes you a victim, not an enemy. Similar conversations were happening throughout the captured fleet as human forces demonstrated something that the galaxy had never seen before. They were showing mercy to enemies who had shown them none, and they were doing it while winning a battle that should have been impossible to survive. Chancellor Eskrath watched his fleet being systematically captured and felt something he had never experienced before: complete helplessness. His forces were not being destroyed, they were being absorbed into the human fleet. Ships that had been fighting against Earth an hour ago were now flying alongside human vessels. This is madness, Skrath muttered as another group of his ships surrendered without firing a shot. How can they trust former enemies so quickly? His aide, a younger Vorthak who had been monitoring human communications, provided an answer that shook the Chancellor to his core. Sir, they're not trusting us. They're giving us something to believe in. The humans are offering every captured crew the choice to join their coalition or return home safely. Most are choosing to stay. Eskarath stared at his aide in disbelief. That's impossible. Why would they betray their own species? Chancellor, they're not betraying anyone. They're choosing freedom over fear. The humans are showing them a different way to live. As the battle reached its climax, Admiral Lisa Carter prepared to demonstrate the final lesson that would echo throughout galactic history. The human fleet, now reinforced by dozens of captured alien vessels flying under Earth's banner, moved toward Chancellor Eskarath's flagship. But instead of destroying the command ship, they surrounded it with a protective formation. A single message appeared on the Chancellor's main screen, transmitted from Admiral Carter herself. Chancellor Siskarath, this battle is over. But the choice of what happens next belongs to you. You can continue to fight for a system that treats sentient beings as property, or you can join us in building something better. The galaxy doesn't have to be ruled by fear. The Chancellor looked around his bridge at officers who were no longer sure they wanted to fight. The humans had not just defeated his fleet, they had offered his people something they had never known: hope for a better future. The galaxy was about to learn that the Earthborn were dangerous, not because they were warriors, but because they were revolutionaries who carried an idea more powerful than any weapon: that every being deserved freedom, dignity, and the chance to choose their own destiny. 3 months after what historians would call the Sol Gambit, the captured alien fleets found themselves facing a situation that no military force in galactic history had ever experienced. Instead of execution, enslavement, or even imprisonment, they were being offered medical treatment, proper quarters, education opportunities, and eventually, the choice to return home or join humanity's growing coalition of free worlds. Chancellor Eskarath sat in what had once been his private quarters aboard his flagship, now converted into a comfortable meeting room, where he regularly met with Admiral Lisa Carter to discuss the terms of the new galactic treaty. The proud Vorthak leader who had come to crush human resistance now found himself struggling to understand concepts that challenged everything he had believed about power and authority. Admiral Carter, Eskarath said during one of their daily discussions, "I still do not understand your people's logic. You had us completely defeated. You could have demanded anything. Instead, you offer us partnership." Lisa smiled patiently. They had been having similar conversations for weeks now, each one helping the former Chancellor understand humanity's different approach to victory. Skirath, what would demanding tribute or territory have accomplished? We would have created more enemies and solved none of the galaxy's real problems. But you would have shown strength, Skirath insisted. Other species would have feared and respected Earth. Fear isn't respect, Lisa replied. And fear-based systems eventually collapse when someone stronger comes along. We're interested in building something that lasts. Through the meeting room's large windows, both leaders could see the mixed fleet that now served as the foundation of the new galactic alliance. Human ships flew alongside former enemies in formations that would have been impossible just months before. Vorthak cruisers worked with Earth destroyers to patrol trade routes. Andromedan science vessels shared research with human laboratories. The transformation had not been easy. Many species had initially viewed humanity's offer of partnership with suspicion, certain that it must be some kind of trap. But as weeks passed and the humans consistently honored their promises, old prejudices began to break down. Captain Jake Harrison had returned to the Outer Rim territories, but this time he was accompanied by ships from a dozen different species. The pirates and slavers who had once terrorized these regions now faced an alliance that represented something entirely new in galactic politics, a coalition built on mutual respect rather than fear. "This is Captain Harrison to all vessels," Jake announced as his mixed fleet approached a known pirate stronghold. "Remember, we're here to liberate the prisoners and capture the criminals. No unnecessary destruction." The Vorthak commander of the cruiser flying alongside Jake's ship, Captain Vashati, had initially been skeptical of human tactics, but after seeing how effectively mercy and justice worked together, she had become one of humanity's strongest supporters. "Captain Harrison," Vashati said over the communication link, "my tactical systems show the pirates are already trying to surrender. Word of our alliance has spread faster than we anticipated." Jake smiled as he watched the pirate ships power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. "That's what happens when you give people hope instead of fear, Captain. They start choosing better options." The boarding operations proceeded smoothly, with human and alien forces working together to secure the facility and free hundreds of enslaved beings. What struck everyone involved was how naturally the different species cooperated when they shared a common purpose. Meanwhile, Dr. Kevin Walsh stood before the Galactic Assembly, now relocated to Luna Station in orbit around Earth. The massive chamber had been redesigned to accommodate representatives from over 200 species, many of whom had never worked together before. "Delegates," Kevin began, Today we activate the public Prometheus Gate network. This system will connect hundreds of worlds in an instantaneous communication and transport grid, making the galaxy smaller and bringing all of our peoples closer, together. The assembled representatives watched in amazement as Kevin demonstrated the technology that had helped humanity win the battle for freedom. But now, instead of being used for war, the gates would serve commerce, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. The network belongs to all of us, Kevin continued. Human technology, powered by Andromedan energy systems, managed by Cetacean artificial intelligence, and protected by Vorthak security protocols. This is what we can accomplish when we work together. As the first public gate activated, connecting Luna Station to New Geneva Colony in the Alpha Centauri system, cheers erupted from delegates representing dozens of species. For the first time in galactic history, instantaneous travel between star systems was available to everyone, not just military forces. The activation ceremony was broadcast throughout known space, showing billions of beings that cooperation could achieve what conquest never could. The symbolic nature of the moment was not lost on anyone. Former enemies were now sharing their greatest technological achievements for the benefit of all. In the weeks that followed, the effects of the new alliance rippled across the galaxy. Trade routes that had been controlled by corrupt officials were open to free commerce. Scientific research that had been hoarded by individual species was shared openly. Most importantly, the concept of universal rights for all sentient beings began to take hold in regions where such ideas had never existed. Captain Tony Mitchell found himself leading mixed crews on missions that would have been impossible under the old galactic order. His latest assignment involved investigating reports of illegal experimentation on a remote research station, but his team now included specialists from 5 different species. The approach vector looks clear, reported his Draknari tactical officer Corinth. But sensors show the facility is heavily shielded. Any signs of the missing scientists? Tony asked. His Cetacean navigator Dr. Melody consulted her instruments. I'm detecting life signs, but they're weak. We need to move quickly. The rescue mission proceeded with the efficiency that had become the hallmark of the new alliance. Each species contributed their unique strengths to solve problems that no single civilization could have handled alone. As they freed the imprisoned researchers and arrested the criminals responsible, Tony reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, these same species had been preparing for war. Now they were working together to protect the innocent and uphold justice. Back on Luna Station, Admiral Lisa Carter received daily reports from across the galaxy as the new alliance expanded and evolved. Former enemies were becoming trusted partners, isolated worlds were joining the coalition, and the old system of fear and oppression was crumbling. Admiral, her aide reported, we've received formal requests to join the alliance from 12 more systems this week. The Zephyrian Council has voted to dissolve their old government and request admission as individual worlds. Lisa nodded with satisfaction. The change was happening faster than anyone had anticipated, but it was also happening peacefully. Species that had fought each other for centuries were finding ways to resolve their differences through diplomacy, rather than warfare. The final test of the new order came when the Draknari Empire, one of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations, formally requested membership in the alliance. Ambassador Korath, who had warned the Galactic Council about challenging humans, now stood before the assembled delegates to explain his people's decision. For too long, my people believed that strength meant domination, Korath declared. The humans have shown us that true strength means protection. We asked to join this alliance not as conquerors, but as guardians of freedom. As the vote was taken and the Draknari were welcomed into the coalition, Dr. Kevin Walsh stepped forward to deliver the words that would echo through the ages and define humanity's gift to the galaxy. Today, we prove that the galaxy's first law was wrong. You should never challenge the Earthborn, not because we are to be feared, but because we will always rise to defend those who cannot defend themselves, and we will never stop believing that every sentient being deserves freedom. The applause that followed seemed to shake the station itself as representatives from hundreds of worlds celebrated the birth of something that had never existed before. a galactic government based on justice rather than power, cooperation rather than conquest, and hope rather than fear. The new Galactic Confederation, with Earth as its beating heart, began to spread across the stars, carrying a revolutionary message that transformed every world it touched. The universe had learned that the human spirit of defiance against tyranny was indeed the most powerful force in existence, capable of turning enemies into allies and building bridges across the vast darkness between the stars. Years later, children of a dozen species would learn in their history classes about the day when everything changed, when a small blue world showed the galaxy that there was a better way to live. And they would understand that the Earthborn had not conquered the galaxy through force, but had liberated it through the simple revolutionary idea that freedom was the birthright of every thinking being in the universe.